Yeah. I was in a pretty bad spot. I was actually at a negative income. I had a bunch of credit card debt that I racked up from being 18 to 21, 20, 22 at the time. I was down to like $100, $200 a month. And that $100, $200 a month didn't even technically cover groceries or gas. And, in 2018, I got a client for 2 months. They paid $500 per month and then they left. Well, that $1,000 went along. I was able to stretch that a long ways.
As your partner, I remember some turning points that I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be big. And actually, one of those, surprisingly, was probably not big moves in the business necessarily, but it was actually the shift of your day job to a new day job.
That doubled my day job income.
What do you think helped that? Because I think a lot of people want to think that entrepreneurship is the way to financial wealth, financial freedom, that sort of thing. But it was my experience too that while you pursue one, you can become an all-star all around. And on the side, while you're doing well and making money and growing a business, it actually helps you at work in a career too.
I had also just started dating Lauren at the time too. And so I didn't want to be in this position where I was like this broke boyfriend that had nothing and was an entrepreneur in marketing. Because in January of 2021, I was making $42,500 at my old job. That's when it starts. So between then and now in 2023 is now where I'm hitting $200,000. Like I just didn't have money to do really anything. I felt like I was kind of isolated and living paycheck to paycheck and day by day. And it was not a great way to live. Money isn't the problem for me now. I think step one in anybody's successful journey is how do I make more money? Then step two becomes how do I buy back my time?
What do you think is the most advantageous thing that they can hear that you can tell them?
Be prepared to work a lot. Like Cody said, this is what you wanted, right? You got to work smarter and you got to work harder and you got to work more. We thought of a good episode that we feel like a lot of our listeners wouldn't mind kind of hearing this story about on a more personal level. And it requires me to be a little bit more vulnerable with how much I've made over the last 3 years. But there's like this coveted 6-figure, $10,000 a month number that people try to get as a solo freelancer or executing like freelancers for them. And as you could tell from the title of the podcast episode, it's basically my story from being broke to making $200,000 in a year within like 3 to 4 years. The title says 3 years, but it's like, I don't know, 3.5, depending on who you ask. But I figured it'd be good if we just kind of do like more of an interview format where Cody gets to ask me the question and pretend like he's the listener. And then I'll answer as candidly as I can without being too specific about things, just so everybody listening can get an idea of what it looks like to get to that point and how long it takes, and additionally what kind of work goes into it, both working on your actual business and then also working in your professional life too. If you did the slow route like we did and didn't leave our day jobs and did both things in tandem.
Yeah, I think something that Jenny's dad said to me once that I really liked was when I graduated college, he said, "Hey, how does it feel to know that you are the brokest that you will ever be right now?"
That's
because
cool.
The logic being that, it's only up from here. If you're assuming that you're going to work hard and do well, that this mountain of debt that you have will only improve from this direction. And I think, you hear something like that and you think, yeah, but this is going to take years. But 3 years, that's good. That's amazing. That's great. Right.
It's also that goes to the Earl Nightingale quote. That's the time will pass anyways. So if it's going to take 3 years, you might as well work for it now, because 3 years from now, you'll be thanking yourself.
Yeah. So, okay, give people ground zero at your, I don't know about the worst. Is it safe to assume that you were in the worst spot when you started freelancing?
Yeah, I was in a pretty bad spot. Well, and it's probably not as bad as a lot of people. Like, I'm not like a Ty Lopez that says I had $17 in my bank account or my, cash in my back pocket, sleeping on my friend's couch. It's not like that. I moved to Kansas City, and I was making $40,000 a year, which is roughly $20 an hour.
What year was this?
2017. And it sounds like I guess if you're 20, 21, like that's not bad. This is all 2017, so adjust for inflation. Whenever, wherever you're listening to this, this is in Kansas City as well. So if you're in LA, 40,000 obviously is nothing, but if you're in Rhinebeck, Iowa, 40,000 is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But I was making 40,000 there, and I just came from the agency, which I was making less there, maybe about the same. But having said that, I was actually at a negative income because I had debt. One, my car. I had a bunch of credit card debt that I racked up from being 18 to 21, 20, 22 at the time. And I'm talking like maybe 8,000 in credit card debt, which isn't a lot for a lot of Americans, which is sad. But for someone who's that young and only making that much on a single income, it's quite a bit of money. And just doing like a cost analysis, I was down to like $100 to $200 a month on what I had left after no insurance, car payments, rent, everything like gas and utilities. And that $100, $200 a month didn't even technically cover groceries or gas or any other like extracurricular activities. So in my mind, that's a negative income. So my 40, and also keep in mind this is 40,000 US dollars. So if you're in a less fortunate country listening to this, that might sound like a lot more. But in the US and a lot of places on a single income, 40K can be broke. But I had started Evergrow because it wasn't even Evergrow at the time. It was just claiming and optimizing Google business profiles for like $200 a piece just to help knock that debt down so I wasn't negative anymore.
Wait, so okay, I'm Dave Ramsey for a minute here. Let me get more financial deets just so I understand. With debt, you said credit cards, you said a car loan. So some people, car loan is debatable on whether that's good or bad debt. Kind of depends on your rate, depends on the kind of car that you bought. Credit card debt is decidedly bad, right? But did you have other things like student loans? What was your grand total of bad debt?
I did have student loans. I still do have student loans. I was waiting for Daddy Joe Biden to pay them off, but he never did. So, yeah, I didn't have a lot of student loans. I had about 20,000 in student loan. Well, I guess to some people that might be a lot, but
That's
I
a
had
lot,
20.
man.
Yeah, I had 20,000 student loans. It's down to 8,000 now. I just haven't paid on them in like 3 years because of the debt hold. And so altogether, I think my car payment was $260 a month. I was just thinking about this today because I just took my car to the shop to change the headlights on. And normally I can change my own headlights, but with the Cadillac, you got to take the front bumper off. But it's the same car I had back then. It's the same 2010 Cadillac that I bought in 2015. So in 2017, I've had it for 2 years and it's paid off now. But my car payment was $260 a month. It's a 7-year loan. So do the math on how much I actually paid for it. And that car insurance at the time, I think was probably about 170 or 180. Now it's a lot less because I'm 30. And the student loans, I think, were about $150 a month. I mean, the student loan term is a lot longer than a car term, anyways, also. So the payments are lower. But you just look at that right there, that's like over $500 in debt. And that's not even credit cards yet.
My unofficial financial perspective is that you're probably 1-to-1. You probably had as much debt as you had coming in. Like your debt to income ratio.
100%.
Right. I mean, if you're 40 and you're 40, then that's about right.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So, but that was still. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming that the move was advantageous for you, going from the agency to this new job. Were you making more money than you were previously?
Yeah, I was, and I think the agency I was. This was a while ago, and I was an entry level at the agency, so I'm sure they pay a lot better now. But I was making about $30K at the agency and $10K in commission when I kind of took an agency account executive role and earning some commission on my clients. So I went from 40K at when all said and done at Mud, and then when I went to the small company, it wasn't an agency in Kansas City, I actually made 4,250. So it was 2,500. Yeah, $2,500 more, 42,500. And but the biggest benefit of it too was I also got a company car, so they also paid for my gas and things like that. So it really helped out because I didn't have to drive my Cadillac really at all, and I was provided a company computer. So going from basically Mud, from having none of that and just basically 40K to having 40K and a car I can drive and a company computer that I can uh, probably illegally start my side business on. Um, what it was a benefit, even if it wasn't like monetary.
So, okay, you got your new job. This is ground zero as far as the episode is concerned. That's where you're starting at, and that's when you also started your side business. Um, from then forward, at what point or how long did it take for you to start feeling financially better? When did you start feeling relief that things were really starting to improve for you and that you didn't feel a crunch when you were looking at your bank account or doing your monthly finances?
Uh, when did we partner?
2019. Well, before. I mean, like when we started making money as partners, because we started talking, but then we didn't legally put the business together with,
Yeah, I mean, it was 2019 when I didn't feel that crunch anymore. So like 2 years later, I think in 20 probably 18. So here's the deal though, is I always felt that crunch from 2017 to 2019, but the kind of one-off jobs that I had that I did to build my portfolio, $500 for a website, $750 for a website here and there, and then like 1 or 2 months of having a client on SEO during that time. And I say it all the time. And in 2018, I got a client for 2 months. They paid $500 per month, and then they left. Well, that $1,000 went a long. I was able to stretch that a long ways. And then there were a couple website builds that I could do to build my portfolio, but I also took like a freelance writing job for a company called Marketing Solved. So shout out to oh no, this is embarrassing. Why can't I remember her name? Kat Sullivan. Shout out to Kat Sullivan at Marketing Solved. She's got an alias like the queen of Pinterest marketing or something. But she's got a new software called Tassi, TASSI. It's a social media scheduling software. And before she had that, they just had marketingsolve.com. And I wrote a lot of articles for that. And they paid me a few $100 a month to do it. And before, when we were looking at my finances and I only had $100 to $200 left a month after all my bills, keep in mind from 2017 to 2018, like I was still paying those credit card bills down and that debt down. So some credit cards did get paid off. I got some more money back, not a lot. But then those one-off jobs plus that monthly content marketing gig from Marketing Solved really, really added to my disposable income. And I still felt a crunch from a bill standpoint, but I felt like I was more free to go out. Well, I didn't have any friends, so I didn't go out a lot. But well, I mean, I was in Kansas City and I didn't know anybody, so I felt more free to go and go to church or go out with church friends, I guess, and go to Applebee's or go to the liquor store across the street and drink myself away.
Okay, you as your partner, I remember some turning points that I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be big. And actually, one of those, surprisingly, was probably not big moves in the business necessarily, but it was actually the shift of your day job to a new day job.
Yes.
When was that?
That was 2021. So I actually interviewed with another company. I was thinking about leaving my day job for a while just because it wasn't cutting it. I wasn't happy. It was inside sales. Inside sales / marketing is a very small company, very old school. So because I had marketing experience, I dubbed myself the director of marketing, which is a very smart move if you're at a small company like that, because I don't think if I had that title, I wouldn't have been recognized at the current company that I'm at. And I I was just applying multiple jobs a day And really, I think the biggest thing too is like I did my resume and everything in Canva. So I even like color matched the resume font and just kind of borders and everything to the company I was applying to. And then I made a very unique cover letter. And that was a big thing. I think that got noticed, but it was in 20 like March of 2020 that they actually interviewed me. And that was a big deal. I don't know how much really they were paying. So they're like, we want to hire you, but we can't right now. Like we got to wait till we, grow a little bit more and have a better position for you. And then nothing ever happened. I just kept following up with the CEO and nothing happened. And like in October or November, the one of the main investors of the company reached out to or connected with me on LinkedIn. And I was like, hey, how's it going? Good to hear from you. And he just basically, they exchanged the pleasantries and said like, what are you up to? I'm like, I'm still working on my job, also doing some agency stuff with my agency on the side. And you and I are a year and a half into this, and we've experienced pretty decent growth. We haven't quite hit that spring of 2021 that we talk about a lot, but he goes, "Oh, well, I might have another client for you." And I was like, "Oh, sweet, yeah, send him over or whatever." He's the main investor of the company that I applied for, so he had other companies too. And basically, what he had me do was put a marketing proposal together for one of his other companies. So I did, and to this day, I still think it was a ploy to get me to do like basically test myself for the job I had originally applied for. So he goes, "Hey, great proposal, thanks. I actually want to interview you for the other job again." So I was like, so anyways, 9 months later, they actually did extend the job offering to me, and I put in my I think 2 months notice to my current employer because it was a small company. They were pretty bootstrapped, and I just want to make sure they were set up before I left. But I always make the joke I interviewed in March, and they carried me to term 9 months later, and finally birthed me onto their team, and that doubled my day job income.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I want to get at. So that was big financially, right? Is actually, and what do you think? What do you think helped that? Because I think a lot of people want to think that, and I'm not going to discount, I'm not going to say that it's not true, that entrepreneurship is the way to financial wealth, financial freedom, that sort of thing. But it was my experience too that while you pursue one, you can become an all-star all around.
Mhm.
And on the side, while you're doing well and making money and growing a business, it actually helps you at work and a career too. So what's your take on that? And how do you feel? Do you think that the stuff on the side, did it give you confidence? Did it give you, how did it help you or what did it benefit you at a day job?
Yeah, it gave me it did give me a lot more confidence because one, I'm the sales guy, so I've got to sell to clients all the time at Evergrow, and when the position that they're hiring for is basically a client partner manager. At the time, it was called a campaign manager, but I basically had to manage campaigns and also communicate with clients' success and direction and things like that. I'm like, well, I already do this. I remember telling you about this. I'm like, it's basically like they're paying me to do what I already do at Evergrow, and that was just a big confidence booster. But the other confidence booster too was I didn't need it. I didn't need a job, a new job. I wanted one because I had my old job and Evergrow was heading in a very positive trajectory. So I wasn't worried either way. And I remember considered leaving my old job and just having Evergrow, jumping because you were getting close to jumping too. But I didn't want to be in that financial bind that I was in again. So I I had also just started dating Lauren at the time too, and so I didn't want to be in this position where I was like this broke boyfriend that had nothing and was an entrepreneur in marketing. You know, as you heard on a previous episode in Japan, but I wanted to make sure that I could still provide for myself and be a good boyfriend and do things with her. And it definitely did give me a lot more confidence. I'll say that to be able to do that. The other thing too is just I had a lot of I learned a lot of things doing my own thing at Evergrow because I was so confined to what I was capable of doing at my old job because I worked at a company in the manufacturing business and did their marketing. I didn't do marketing for other people. So my budget and everything was limited to what the company was allowing me to do. And they prioritized inside sales. So I didn't have a lot of time to do any actual marketing. And Evergrow was that kind of outlet. So when I applied to this other job and we had these interviews, I was able to speak more confidently about program execution and didn't have to rely on things that I did at Mud like 5 years ago. So yeah, that was the biggest. That was the biggest thing. Did I answer your question there?
You did. I'm looking at our notes that we put together, and I'm just trying to get the years right so people can understand what this looks like, because we've thrown a few years out with different times.
Yeah.
And I think
So
it's important to maybe make clear that, like, up until 2021, even we weren't really making
oh
money.
yeah. So the the broke to $200,000 thing, it kind of starts at 2021 because in January of 2021, I was making 4250 or 42,500 at my old job, and that's when it starts. So between then and now in 2023 is now where I'm hitting $200,000. And
Mm,
so there that's setting the real timeline. I think the 2017 to 2021 was just kind of setting up the why I started to it's kind of like it's like an exponential increase, right? Like now we're 2017 to 2023 or 2017 to 2021, that was like the flat line at the bottom of the x-axis or the bottom of the y-axis. And 2021, that's like right at the start of the curve to start going up. So yeah.
yeah. So we've talked about it before that 2021 was a big year for us, and then from then, you know, business wise for us, it's only gotten better. Um, as far as your, you know, day job, from that position where you got offered at the new company, have things improved at a noteworthy point to mention here? Like, have you made a lot since that initial double, or has it all from that point been mostly Evergrow that's been the main driver to get up to this 200K ish?
Yeah, so at the end of 2021, I think I was sitting right about 80K. So obviously, yeah, my salary actually doubled from the new day job. But remember, I started in basically February, so I already a month behind. And then Evergrow hadn't really made any money in 2020, and then 2021 was like the first year that we actually posted a decent amount of profit. I think I can't remember what we each of us closed at, but it was basically what I was making at Mud, a little bit less than that as a base. So combined, I think I was right at 80K because uh, I just remember not hitting the 6 figure mark quite yet.
Mm. Okay. Um, this is maybe jumping a little bit, but I think it's worth asking because uh, maybe it's not easy to speak about that middle ground of, I mean, because we've talked about the work wise, at least in the business, it's doing a lot of what we were just doing, and then it just finally working and toppling over. So I think some of the big things that might help people to know is, like, back then, what were you worried about? What were your stressors? Where was your time spent mentally, thinking? And then how is it different now? What are you stressed about financially? And then also business and career wise?
Yeah, I also have to back up for a second too. I'm
Oops.
I'm I'm remembering things, and I'm also looking at my notes, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. So I think at the end of 2021, I did actually close out at over 100K. I think I was at 120 because that was our explosive year for Evergrow. And I think yeah, okay, sorry, yes, 20. Let's recalibrate here. 2021. So I went from 2020. I think when all said and done, between Evergrow and my old job, that was like the 70 to 80K. That's when I closed out there. When I accepted the new job in 2021 and my day job income doubled, And then we also had that explosive year in Evergrow. That's when I closed out at 120-ish K. So I went from basically 80K the previous year. So the years go like this. You have 2019 closing out at 4250 or 42,500. And then you have 2021 closing out at about, did I hear that? Yeah, 2021. Man,
Did you say
2020.
2020? 2020?
This is getting so confusing. And our listeners like, just get it together. I have my notes here. 2020, I closed out 56K. That was with you. So with you and my day job, 56. 2021 or 2020, yeah, 2021 was huge. That was like, dude, I'm gonna end up cutting this. let me recount. Okay, so 2020, that was the year. Yes, that was the year I closed out between 70 and 80K between Evergrow and my day job. So 2019, backing it up 1 year, 2019, that was just basically flat, 42,500.
That was the McDonald's year for us here
Yeah,
at work,
right.
right? We were working like we would have made more money at McDonald's.
Right. So then we start in 2020 when Evergrow actually makes like 16K each of us, or each for us. So then we add that to my day job, and now I'm at like 56 to actually it was like 80, 70K, I think, total is what we closed out in 2020. What I closed out in 2020. And that was a big year for me because I just started dating Lauren and I felt like I could flex. But it was nothing. It was nothing. I think Lauren laughed at me. And then 2021, when I accepted the new job and it doubled, that's when I closed out at 123K. So that was like Evergrow exploded. I doubled my day job income. I went from basically like 50-ish K in 2019 to 70 to 80-ish K in 2020, and then 123K in 2021 at the end of 2021.
For context, that's when I jumped ship from Spin Tech, was
Spring
beginning of 2021.
Yeah, spring of 2021. So Cody went from a huge income to basically nothing. He basically reverted back to my 2019. Probably before that, 2018.
Yeah, reverse Jake, but that's okay because I also went to school.
It's a braver jump. Okay. So to answer your question about what was I worried about then versus what am I worried about now, what I was worried about then, I think, was a lot more about how to make more money to manage, one, my debt, and two, my free time. Like I just didn't have money to do really anything. I felt like I was kind of isolated and living paycheck to paycheck and day by day, and it was not a great way to live, I felt like. And now what I'm worried about is managing my time, because money isn't the problem for me now. And I know that can be taken in kind of a negative way. I don't want it to be, but I get stressed all the time because my schedule just fills up and I just don't have time to do anything between my day job, my Evergrow marketing, the Everbros podcast, my consulting that I do on the side, and competitive paintball and traveling all the time and doing things with Lauren. Like my schedule is so full, like things have to give at a certain point, and it's extremely stressful when some things start falling through the cracks. But I remember you say this to me all the time. Like back when we were starting to talk in 2019 and 2020, and I had all these aspirations, and now like I'm at that point, and I tell you I am just so overburdened with work, and you just go, well, this is what you wanted, right? I'm like, you know what, Cody, kiss my ass. In a way, it is. Like I'm very fortunate to be able to have all this work, and I need to start using that in my vernacular, which is, I get to pay my bills today, or I get to go to work today instead of I have to work or I have to pay bills, because I'm able to. And I don't have copious amounts of money, but I do have a surplus, and there's a great feeling to have.
Makes me sound like a bad guy, but what I mean by it too is, like, because at any point you're also free to decide and change, right? Like this is what, when I say this is what you wanted, right? It's, I mean it, right? Like, is this still what you wanted? Because you at any point do have the, not only the ability, but now the financial freedom too. Because before, when you're broke, you don't like, you don't have a, I mean, you can continue being broke. I guess you could say that, but
Yeah,
um
I think, I mean, you're always going to have different problems. And I think step one in anybody's successful journey is, how do I make more money? Then step two becomes, how do I earn the amount of money that I need, but buy back my time? Because nobody who's not making any money says, how do I get more time? Like, I guess, like, if you're not making any money working 12 hours a day, then maybe you need both. But usually it starts out with, how do I earn more money so I can have more free time? And I think what a lot of people fall into is they earn more money and they keep earning more money, and they never get their free time back. Or they just become obsessed with earning more money, and they just keep chasing that. Alex Hormozzi calls it chasing the dream, or
mm.
playing the game, playing the game.
So let me ask it to you straight, because you started getting into it. What problems did the money solve when you were broke? And then what problems do you still have? What didn't it
Dude,
fix?
money solves everything. I can't remember who was saying this. Who said it? It was like Grant Cardone or Robert Kiyosaki or something. There's very little in the world that money doesn't solve. And I know that sounds like very superficial. It sounds like very materialistic. But if you think about a lot of the problems that are out there, even now, like climate change and green energy, guess what? Money, investment into green technologies, time with your family. Can't have time with the family if you can't pay the bills. So if you have the money, then you have more time. If you have money set aside so you don't have to work, great, you can survive. And there, I want to go travel the world. Guess what? Need money. And I think if more people realize that, I don't want to say that. I was going to say, if I think more people realize that money solves every problem, I think people would, instead of hating on money, earning more money and having a higher potential. But it really does. Like, even if you want to be as selfless as possible and give to charity and give to communities and things like that, you need money. And if you don't have the time, you need money to buy your time back, or else you're going to be homeless. And that's all it is. But what was your question again?
Well, you said, well, I guess, so still now, just to repeat, what, you have more money than you did. What problems are you still dealing with that the money doesn't solve?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. I think anything knowledge based. I don't know. I feel like I have a short attention span. So there are things that I want to do and I want to learn, and I don't take the time to do it. I didn't back then, and I don't now. And the all the money, the money problem here's the real money problem, is when you don't have money, you chase it. When you start succeeding and you start getting money, you just keep chasing it, and therefore you never have any time. So I think the biggest problem that it's still not solving is buying my time back, because I don't feel like I've reached that point where I can officially buy my time back. I can, hire a maid or hire a lawn care company or whatever, or like hire an expensive local place to watch my dogs when I go out of town. I still got to drive 7 hours to drop them off at my parents' house whenever I go somewhere. That's 7 hours of my time gone, plus whatever time that they want to spend talking to me. I also don't have any friends, so money does not buy friends.
Business partners don't count. You got to spend time with them. You're obligated.
Yeah, we do meet up tomorrow.
We're
Yeah,
doing that because we're
money
friends,
money
not just because we're
hasn't
business partners.
money hasn't made me a better paintball player. I'm still dealing with sucking at that.
So think about the kind of person who might find this interesting, right? Or think back to who you were back before you hit this point of financial success. And what do you think is the most advantageous thing that they can hear that you can tell them while trying to pursue this or accomplish this financial goal?
Be prepared to work a lot. Like Cody said, this is what you wanted, right? So, you know, it's not just, a lot of people say work smarter, not harder. I mean, you got to do both. You got to work smarter and you got to work harder and you got to work more. And if you want, like, I did this in about 3.5 years, going from 40K to 200K. But I am also afraid of death and afraid of getting old and being unable to do things when I'm older. So I want to have more things now and enjoy more things when I have, more time. So I'm willing to put everything aside, my entire 20s, to just work extremely hard so I can live a better second half of my 30s and 40s, 50s, and 60s. If you want to get to, I guess, a point where even I'm at, which isn't even that high. I mean, I'm a tiny fish in a big ocean. And but even if you're listening to this and you want to get to that point, but you don't want to work so hard and see so little improvements for years until like the last two or three, then you can do that and have more time and just quit your day job and do your agency thing as long as your bills are paid, but it's going to take a little bit longer. And what's the 1,000 days to replace your day job income that the tropical MBA guys talk about? That's true. Like, it took us about 3 years of Evergrow to replace our day jobs, and not my current day job, but my day job I worked at before. The difference for me was that it didn't really replace it, supplemented it, and basically doubled my total income. The cool thing about it was I only had to work on Evergrow for like 20 hours a week, if that. So if I work 40 hours a week in my day job, I work 20 hours a week at Evergrow, that's 60 hours a week total, which is what a lot of people work on just their day job in a week. So I was okay with working 60, 70, even up to 80 hours a week, just cranking the stuff out after my day job for the pursuit of the doubled income lifestyle. And eventually that will end. I eventually, I'm at 200K now, but next year I could just be at 100. Who knows? So I think biggest advice is, what do you want? If you want a lot of money and a lot of it quicker so you can pay off bills and be basically income neutral, then I would keep your day job, work hard, double your income before you leave. Now, if you want more flexibility and free time and you're not really worried about debt, then leave your day job and focus on this. As long as you can pay your bills. Don't ever leave your day job and take a chance on it unless you're just mentally not okay.
Yep.
I think that's really important too. If you're like seriously mentally not okay at your day job and you honestly think leaving would be good, I would really do it, but also make sure that you're okay at the same time taking a job at Chick-fil-A or McDonald's to just pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't really talk about it. So the very last year after 2022, so 2023, where we're at right now, 2022, I ended about 150K. So now if we look at the succession or the succession of how much I've made since 2019, 2019 was about 56-ish K. 2020 was about 70 to 80. 2021 was 2021. I'll just tell you what I made because it's really funny. I got my taxes back, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. And I was so mad I didn't make 2 more extra dollars. 1, 2, could you imagine? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anyways, 2022 closed out, and that was about 150K. So 2023 is where we're at right now. And I have already met or am very close to 150, and we're in August. So it's projected 200K. So I'm sorry if you felt like you were misled by the title of this, but had to get you to listen somehow. So
yeah.
no, none of this was meant to. I don't want to come off as braggy because this will change. I will no longer make 200K. It will drop, and especially when we S corp. When we S corp, our salaries at Evergrow will probably not be 100K. It'll probably be a lot less. Probably, what's the number? Like 80 something.
Where the trade off is for tax advantages. Yeah, I think they say about 78 is what I've heard. But I pulled
That's what
that
Jeff
out of my
Bezos
butt.
makes. That's his salary.
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos' salary is like 78,000 or something like that because everything else is profit and
yeah, sure he's got
whatever
a good
other
accountant.
rich people get paid. I don't know. So it'll end, but the whole point is that you can make that much getting to, or in 3 years. It's just how hard do you want to work? There are some points of it too that haven't been healthy, both like mentally and just in my relationship too, because it's just you're always working. You don't have time to do a lot of the free stuff, and it's not always fun. So if things in your personal life start to tank, I would reground and focus, and it's not a competition. I treat everything like a competition. It's not healthy. That's all I had. I hope this was valuable. I really do. I felt like some people wanted to hear more about this, and I feel like other people are just gonna be like, this is super braggy. I don't want to hear about it. But I felt like it was a lot more realistic than all the other gurus out there who say they had $20 to their name and suddenly started selling a course or started an SMMA and now they're a millionaire.
Well, yeah. I mean, how do you find the balance, right, between this is what gets people to click and listen? They want this sort of shock value, but then also to hit them with some real authenticity and being genuine and honest about what the reality is, as opposed to just saying, whatever numbers that they want to in a video, and then they put a business that's owned by another business that's located in not this country, and then it's all siphoned, and then they just move the money somewhere else. And classic, classic story of financial success through fraud.
I was showing Marcus some things because he's asking banking questions with his business. And I wanted to show him like what my personal bank account looked like because of like how I have it separated based on the profit first system. And I was like, so this is the revenue account. This is like where all the money comes into, and it's where I move the money to the separate accounts. And I opened it, and it was like, transfers from my day job and from Evergrow into it. And he's like, his eyes just widened, his jaw just dropped, and he's like, "You make that much?" And I was like, yeah. I mean, I also live in the U.S., which is very expensive place to live. So it's not like my quality of life is the highest in the world. But he goes, so there is. He's like, that gives me so much hope, knowing that there is hope. Basically following exactly your method, because that's what he's doing. I'm basically acting as his mentor and doing things that I would have done from the start with him. And he's already got like 2 or 3 clients, I think, after 4 months, 4 or 5 months. I can't remember.
That's great.
But yeah, so I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, there is hope. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight or in 1 year or 2 years or even 3 years, but there's hope. You'll get there. I did, and I'm an idiot. All right, guys. Well, that's all we had. If you like this episode, please leave us a review. If we've noticed the reviews have just stopped. So
we're hurt.
Yeah,
I'm hurt.
Unless it's negative, then don't leave us a review. But I don't think I can actually say that. But leave us a review on Apple. Leave us a rating on Spotify, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks. See you.